Grace, we're on in 5.
Coming to you live from Sports Center. We will be reviewing the McCullough versus Maryland case. In 1816, they came up with the second bank of the United States. Around 1818, about 2 years later, the state of Maryland passed the legislation to impose taxes on the bank. But James W. McCullough refused to pay the tax. Coming live today, we have Maryland coming to join us to give their or her constitutional views about what is right.
Wolfpack.
Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Very good.
Okay, please give us what your constitutional right, in your opinion, should be.
Sovereign State Maryland was vested by its people with an authority to regulate business and tax institutions inside the borders. Regulation of banks was long accepted as a necessity, a necessity means to prevent financial abuses. Thank you. Wolfpack!
Thank you for that. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show today, W. McCullough. What are your views on your constitutional rights as being a member of the Second Bank of the United States?
Well, the creation of the National Bank had been debated in Congress as a means for conducting financial operations of the nation.
Sucks.
That's it. There you have it, his own personal view. What do you all think? Thank you. We're here on Sports Center again, ready to discuss Maryland's last argument of the McCullough versus Maryland case.
Thank you. Back to me.
Welcome.
Federal government created a number of statutes to regulate state banks.
Sports Center here again, discussing McCullough's last arguments on the McCullough versus Maryland case. We have James W. McCullough here with us today.
Congress deemed its establishment necessary and proper. The bank was a legitimate federal function with which no state may interfere with. Yes.
I see. Okay. Thank you for coming in today. Question from the audience for Maryland. What should prevent the state of Maryland from regulating the banks?
The federal banks?
Yes, the federal banks.
Well, there is no authorization to charter the field. The banks is included in the Constitution. Well, I guess one of the banks of the U.S. was in the state argued. The state was like arguing it. What does it say? I don't know. It's just, I guess it was unconstitutional.
All right. Well, Maryland had a tax on the bank. Therefore, Maryland was taxing the federal government, making it very unconstitutional.
Okay, it wasn't even that unconstitutional.
Shh. Unconstitutional.
Joining us back on Sports Center for reviewing the final plays of McCullough versus Maryland. After the Marshall Court has decided to review in favor of McCullough with 7 votes. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. Congress did, have the power to incorporate a bank, but the state could not tax the bank, it being part of the federal government. Chief Justice Marshall states that Congress had enumerated powers as said in the Constitution. If you need a legal provision, read in the U.S. Constitution for Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 and 18. The constitutional question that was raised in these arguments: should the state be allowed to impose taxes on the second bank of the United States? All in all, the McCullough versus Maryland reviews helped shape the government by establishing two separate principles. Constitution will grant Congress the implied powers to create a functional national government. And lastly, the states cannot overrule constitutional powers. Thank you for joining us on SportsCenter today.